to Feed Me in the Forest. My name is Car, and today I want to talk about tea. When it's cold outside, you'll often find me with a cup of tea in my hand. I love all sorts of teas: black tea, green tea, white tea, red tea, and especially herbal teas, which is what I'll be talking about today. Many people drink teas for different health reasons. So they might drink teas for improvement of sleep, for anxiety or stress, for energy, for cognitive function, for digestive issues. Today I'm going to share with you 10 of some of my favorite teas. So there are many ways that you can prepare teas. You can use tea filters. You can buy them in your supermarket. They're disposable little tea bags. You can just fill them with your herbs and make your tea with them and then toss them. You can get the same type of thing in a reusable tea bag. They're usually made of some kind of a muslin fabric. You just fill your tea bag with your herbs, and then when you're done, you empty and wash it, and then you can use it again. You can use a wire mesh tea strainer, you can use tea ball, you can just use a mason jar and then strain your tea afterwards. I'll show you a variety of these techniques in the video. There are also different types of teas, preparations. There are infusions, there are long infusions, there are decoctions. Most of these teas I'll talk about today are infusions, which is the easiest way to make a tea. It simply involves steeping your tea in hot water, waiting for a certain amount of time, usually 10 minutes or so, straining the tea out and drinking it. And this is best for tea materials, including like the more delicate parts of your plants, like leaves and flowers. There's also a decoction process, which is more geared towards your tougher plant materials, like some dried berries, roots, barks, twigs, things like that. So decoction is simply simmering your plant material in water. So once the herbal tea bug bites you, there are hundreds and hundreds of possibilities of tea combinations, formulating your own tea blends. It's a whole lot of fun, and I encourage you to get a bunch of tea and experiment. Figure out what kind of teas you like, what kind of flavors. Buy a whole bunch of teas in bulk. You can go online. There are many reputable tea sellers out there. Get a bunch of teas that sound good to you. Try them individually. Try blending them up. It's really rewarding and it's a whole lot of fun. So let's go make some tea. Before I start with the tea video, I just wanted to ask a question. Is anyone else getting really tired of seeing a beautiful bright blue sky mucked up with this milky haze? Seems like daily. I'm going to leave that right there. Let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about tea, okay? Let's go. It's really boiling. So this is one of my favorite herbal tea blends for the winter months when it's dark and cold and you're maybe feeling kind of down, missing the nice warm spring weather. It's a blend of lemony tasting herbs. So here we have lemon balm, lemon verbena, and lemongrass. And in this blend, there is also some rose hips in there. I do grow lemon verbena and I make my own tea, but I did buy this blend from a local farm. And to it, I also like to add some of my rose petals. These rose petals are from my rose bush, and I harvested them in the spring. And just looking at them and smelling them makes me think of spring and summer and warmer weather. So I have a scoop of that lemony tea in there, and I just added my rose petals, and I'll let that steep for several minutes. My tea's been steeping for about 5 or 10 minutes, and you just want to squeeze those herbs, squeeze all that good stuff out of there. And then I always like to compost my herbs when I'm done. And I'm just going to add a little bit of raw honey for some sweetness. Let's do that right in. I love that lemony aroma. It tastes lemony too. So if you're feeling blue or a little bit down in these gray winter months, I highly recommend you try a lemony herbal tea like lemon verbena, lemon balm, lemongrass, any combination of those, or even individually. Add some of those lovely rose petals, and it's almost guaranteed to give you a little uplifting boost. It's good aromatherapy too. Smells good. The next tea is a golden milk tea, or some people call it a golden milk latte. It's really a milk tea, I guess, because instead of using water, you're using milk. You can use any kind of milk. I'm using a combination of coconut milk and some homemade cashew milk. And I just warmed it up here on my stove. Now I'm going to add my herbs. This is about a teaspoon of ground turmeric. Turmeric is a great anti-inflammatory herb. It's useful for inflammation, especially in the gastrointestinal tract. So it's great for things like irritable bowel syndrome, and it can also help protect against ulcers, and it can also inhibit bowel cancers. It's also commonly used as an anti-inflammatory for musculoskeletal pain, so things like arthritis or acute back pain or something like that. So my next herb is some ground cinnamon. So I'm going to put in about half of a teaspoon of that. Cinnamon is also a wonderful anti-inflammatory herb, and it's also warming, and it's also a circulatory stimulant. My next herb is going to be ground ginger root, and I'm also going to put in a half a teaspoon of that. Now ginger, when you use the dry or the fresh root, they have a little bit of a different effect. So the dry root helps to stimulate circulation, and it's anti-inflammatory. It can be helpful for musculoskeletal pain, including arthritis. The dry root also relieves nausea, gas, and motion sickness, although the fresh root is superior for this. So I'm just going to use my wire whisk to kind of incorporate all of the herbs into the milk. And one last thing I'm going to add is just a little pinch of black pepper. And what the black pepper does, it helps with absorption of all the other herbs. And you also do not want to use a milk that is low fat, because the fats also help with absorption. I'm just going to stir everything up. I'm just going to let that simmer for a minute or so. So this combination of herbs in this golden milk, it's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, it's great for digestive support, also immune support, and it's warming. So this is a great drink to have if you're cold, especially if you have cold hands or feet, or on a day like today, you just can't seem to get warm, you're chilled to the bone, maybe you've been outside walking the dogs or working outside. Have a cup of this and it'll really warm you up. All of the herbs used to make golden milk are readily available in your supermarket spice section. You can use those, or you can order in bulk from shops such as Mountain Rose Herbs or Frontier Herbs. Look at this beautiful golden earthy color. It smells wonderful, warming and comforting. I'm just going to sit down and enjoy my golden milk tea. You may find that your tea needs some sweeteners. I don't like using a lot of sugars, but I do use some raw honey once in a while, or maple syrup. You can use either of those in your golden milk or any of your teas. And if that's not sweet enough, I sometimes like to add a little bit of stevia. I don't like stevia on its own. It kind of has that funky aftertaste, but mixed with your honey or maple syrup or another kind of sweetener, it's not bad. You really don't notice it at all. My next tea is green tea, and for this cup I am using a sencha green tea, which is probably the most common type of green tea. It's got a light, fresh flavor, and to brew this I'm using one of these tea sacks. And you can purchase these in, certain grocery stores have them, health food stores. You can buy them online. So they're really convenient. They're disposable. They're just a single use. You can also purchase reusable tea bags, which are made from like a muslin material. So after you use them, you just empty them and wash them, and then you could use them again. So I'm going to add some of my sencha leaves. About a teaspoon, and I like mixing my green tea with some other herbs. So for this I'm going to use some of my lemon verbena, because you know how I love my lemony herbs. So I'm just going to put those leaves in here as well. Get them all in. I'm just going to crush them up a little bit and add my hot water. And we're going to let that steep for a few minutes. You don't want to steep your green tea or black tea too long, because it gets bitter the longer you steep it. So maybe, 4-5 minutes at the most. There are different kinds of green tea. Besides sencha, there's also matcha, which is a powder. It has more of an intense flavor, and that's usually made, there are these special matcha sets that you can buy. They come with a little whisk, and you whisk it up to make it. There's a genmaicha, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but that's more of a toasty flavored green tea. There's a hojika, which has a nutty flavor, and it's a little bit lower in caffeine. There's also bancha, which has a woody, more astringent flavor. There's kukicha tea, which is one of my favorites. It's a twig tea, and it's very mild and smooth. There's also a gunpowder green tea, which is actually pan-fired, and it's got a smoky flavor. So I'm just going to dip my tea bag a little bit here. So there are a lot of health benefits to green tea. It's very rich in polyphenols like EGCG, and don't ask me to pronounce the name. And that benefits heart health. If you drink enough of it, like 2 to 4 cups a day, it may help to lower your LDL cholesterol. L-theanine and caffeine in green tea help improve cognitive function and mood, and it's also a great source of antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory, and they may reduce the risk of cancer. So green tea does contain some caffeine, probably about 20 to 30 milligrams per cup. Compared to black tea is around 50 milligrams. Matcha green tea is higher, so that can be up to 44 milligrams of caffeine per cup. Compared to coffee has anywhere from about 90 to 200 milligrams per cup. And with coffee and teas, it depends on the origin and type. So different origins of coffee or tea, or types of coffee or tea, may contain slightly different caffeine levels. So my tea has been steeping for a little more than 5 minutes, so I'm going to take the tea bag out, give it a little squeeze, and add a little bit of raw honey. So this is good, either hot or iced, whatever you like. The next tea is a carminative tea. A carminative is an herb that reduces gas and nausea. In this blend, we have fennel seeds, anise seeds, and lavender. All of these are carminative herbs, and they taste wonderful. If you like licoricey tasting things, you might love this tea. This is a wonderful tea to have after dinner, especially if you have for dinner something like this bean and smoked turkey soup, which may cause a little bit of gas. So I have my herbs here in a suribachi. A suribachi is a Japanese mortar and pestle, sort of. It has a grooved surface for crushing up your herbs. It does a very nice job. It's got a wood pestle. As you can see, it's grinding up those herbs very nicely. So I then placed my herbs in a disposable tea bag and poured some hot water over it, and I'm just letting it steep for about 10 minutes or so. The next tea is an antioxidant-rich hibiscus berry tea. So these are hibiscus flowers. Hibiscus is a beautiful flower, and these petals make a wonderful, gorgeous purple tea. I love making it in glass just so I can look at the beautiful color. So hibiscus, when taken regularly, it may help lower blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. It also contains anthocyanins, which is responsible for that beautiful purple color, which support cardiovascular and brain health. It also contains potent antioxidants, and it benefits the eyes. These are hawthorn berries. Hawthorn berries support cardiovascular health when used regularly, and they can also help to prevent arteriosclerosis. These are elderberries. They're also very high in anthocyanins, as you might be able to tell from that beautiful purple, deep purple color. Elderberries are antiviral, although a more concentrated syrup would be superior for this kind of use. But they go really nicely in a tea. These are goji berries. You may not think of using goji berries in a tea, but they go very nicely. So goji berries are also very high in antioxidants, and they support the health of the eyes. They contain carotenoids like zeaxanthin, which are really beneficial to eye health. So I'm going to put my herbs in my glass jar, starting with the hibiscus. Stick those in there. Oh, I'm just going to chop up my goji berries a little bit just to expand their surface area for a little bit better extraction. You don't have to go crazy. Just chop them up a little bit. There we go. And I'll add those to the jar also. And for the elderberries and hawthorn berries, I'm going to add those in my little suribachi here. And we're going to crush them up a little bit just to expand their surface area for better extraction. And they're pretty hard to break up. Dried berries are very hard. So it takes a little bit of effort to crush them up. Sometimes you have to kind of pound them and they go flying all over. Yep. Yep, do the best you can. Yep, kind of flying out. Making a little mess, but that's okay. This sriracha is pretty strong. It's not breaking up after that. So here's kind of what they look like after they're smashed up a little bit. So I'm going to add those to my jar. And then berries, like I said, they're very hard. So they do require a little bit of extra extraction time. So I'm going to let that sit and steep in this jar for about an hour or so. You could also try to simmer them a little bit, and that'll help speed things up. But I'm just going to let them sit for about an hour. You can already see that beautiful purple color coming out. So we'll see you in an hour, and we'll see how that looks. So this has been sitting for about an hour. Look at that gorgeous color. I love that. So I'm just going to strain it right into another jar. And there are all the spent berries there, and the hibiscus. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. Squeeze all that good stuff out. Go. I like a touch of sweetness in this tea, so you can use whatever sweetener you like, but I am going to add a teaspoon of coconut sugar. I'm just going to put the lid on and shake it up to mix it. You can drink this tea warm if you like. I prefer it cold. It's very refreshing, especially during the summertime. That's all mixed up. I made a mess again. I'm making a lot of messes today. I'm just going to pour it over a nice glass of ice. Look at that beautiful color. Nothing artificial there. 100% natural. And the taste is tart, fruity, with just a touch of sweetness. Super refreshing and delicious. The next tea is Tulsi, also known as holy basil. And when I drink Tulsi tea, I often use just tea bags bought from the store. So I'll go and purchase a box. It comes in a variety of different flavors, so it's mixed with other things. This particular one is a red chai masala Tulsi tea, and it's mixed with rooibos, which is a red tea, plus classic chai spices. So Tulsi is a member of the mint family of herbs. What this herb does, it increases circulation in the brain, and it may be helpful for improving memory. And it's also a carminative, meaning it is useful for gas and nausea. Tea bags are just so simple when you buy them. I occasionally will buy bulk Tulsi and make my own blends, but these tea bags are really good. Tulsi on its own without anything else mixed in is delicious also, so you can do that, or you can make your own blends or go out and purchase these tea bags. They are really super good. I always enjoy my chai teas with a little bit of honey and a little bit of my nut milk blend. This goes really nicely with the flavors. The next herbal tea is German chamomile. Chamomile is a nervine, meaning it's calming to the nerves. It's very helpful for gastrointestinal symptoms that are caused by anxiety, so things like nervous diarrhea or nervous stomach. This is my favorite nighttime tea. It helps me to sleep, but for me, it needs to be pretty strong. So you can experiment with the strength. I like to use about 2 teaspoons of herbs per cup and steep it for at least 45 minutes. Just keep in mind, it gets bitter with longer steep times. And here's what it looks like. It's very pretty. It's a pretty flower. It grows easily. I grow this in pots. The one I planted a couple years ago, it's been coming back every year in the pot. So it's pretty hardy. You can harvest the flowers. You can pick the flowers, then they'll come back, and you can dry them and use them for tea. Chamomile is a great tea for children. It's mild, but it's effective. After all, Peter Rabbit's mom made him chamomile tea after his misadventure in Mr. McGregor's garden, if you remember that fairy tale. I don't know if kids these days know that one, but it's a really cute story, and it soothes Peter Rabbit. And for kids, chamomile blends very nicely with apple juice, and kids seem to enjoy it that way. This is dried raspberry leaf. As you can see, it's very light and fluffy. Raspberry leaf tea has a long history of use in pregnant women. It helps with morning sickness, it reduces the risk of miscarriage, and it promotes a healthy delivery and recovery. It's also high in minerals like calcium and magnesium, so it makes a nourishing infusion. It is astringent, so it kind of makes you pucker a little bit, kind of similar to black tea. It makes a really tasty beverage tea though. It's great to have on hand in case of diarrhea. I like to drink it occasionally just for funsies because I do like the taste of it. And again, this is just made as an infusion, so you just pour your boiling water over your raspberry leaf. You can put it in one of those disposable tea bags. That works really well for this. And let it steep for about 10 minutes. Next up is dandelion root. I like to use this product. It's easy. It's a blend of roasted dandelion root, chicory, barley, and rye extracts. I like this better than roasted dandelion root on its own. It just has a nicer, smoother flavor to it. This is super easy. You don't have to simmer it like you do with a roasted dandelion root because of the way it's processed. It's very soluble in water. So all you do is pour your hot water in your cup and use your chosen amount. If you want it to be a tea-like beverage, you use a little less. If you want it to be more of a coffee-like beverage, use a little bit more. So I'm just going to use like a rounded teaspoon. You can see it looks a lot like finely ground coffee. So all you do is put it in and stir it up. And it has sort of a coffee-like flavor to it, maybe a little bit of a stretch to say it tastes like coffee, but it is a good substitute if you're trying to get off of coffee or cut down like I am. I love my coffee, but sometimes I drink a little bit too much and it gives me the jitters. So this is caffeine free. You can even cut your coffee with it, like do half of your dandelion blend with half of your coffee. And I am not sponsored by any of these brands. And on the back of the package, it gives you some recipes. I've never tried any of these, but those dandy pancakes sound pretty interesting, so I may have to try those one of these days. And you can add your sweetener or creamer, however you like it. Dandelion is an amazing plant. All parts of the plant are useful. So the root is useful. You can actually even use the stem. If you break the stem, there's like this milky white latex, and you can use that to try to get rid of warts. The flower, you can make dandelion wine. You can pick off the petals and mix them into muffins or cookies or toss them on top of a salad. They're very high in carotenoids, which are very nourishing for your eyes. When it's in buds, you can pick the buds and you can fry them up and eat them as a vegetable. The leaves, of course, they are a very well-known diuretic. They're very tasty in salads when they're young. When they get older, and more further into the summer, they do get kind of bitter, so they're best in the spring to eat in a salad. Super useful plant. I may have to do a video the next time I make dandelion wine. It's super fun and it's really good, and when you have a glass in the winter, it just tastes like liquid sunshine. Reminds you of warm, sunny spring days. Since it is cold and flu season, we're smack dab in the middle of it. So this is a diaphoretic tea. What's a diaphoretic, you may be asking? Well, a diaphoretic is something that induces perspiration. You know, our skin is the largest eliminatory organ in our bodies. It has pores, and we detoxify through those pores through sweating. So this is a tea that I take at the first sign of a cold. It is elderflowers, which are right here. Elderflowers are a diaphoretic herb. They taste fantastic. Peppermint. This peppermint I grew in my garden over the summer. I picked it and dried it in my dehydrator, stuck it in a jar, and now I have it to use all winter long. And it smells wonderful. And the third herb, I'm going to use a tincture because I do not have any of the dry herb. I do grow a little bit of yarrow. It doesn't spread a whole lot, so I didn't really have a lot of dry yarrow to use, so I'm going to use a tincture. The tincture is simply an alcohol extract. It can be also a glycerite, using a glycerin to extract, or occasionally you'll come across vinegar extracts, but they're usually alcohol. It tends to extract most of the herb's active constituents. So I'm going to start with a teaspoonful of my elderflowers. I'm going to add some peppermint leaves. Crush them up in there. When I dry my herbs, I like to keep them as whole as possible and just crush them as I go. I think they stay fresher that way. So a few more peppermint. Go. I'm going to add my hot water. And when that's done steeping for about 10 minutes or so, I'll add my yarrow tincture. So my diaphoretic tea has been steeping for about 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to take the herbs out and squeeze all that good stuff out. And as you can see, there are a few, well, more than a few. There's some little bits that snuck past the mesh in my tea strainer. That's perfectly fine. You can just drink that down. If you prefer not to have that, you can just use one of those disposable or reusable tea bags. So I'm going to add just one dropper full of my yarrow tincture. Stir it up. So if I felt a cold coming on, that first little twinge you get at the back of your throat, you know, I will take 1 or 2 cups of this and I will dress as warmly as I can. I'll put on a nice comfy pair of sweats, some nice warm socks. I'll get some nice warm blankets, wrap myself up. I want to be very warm, and I'll go to bed and just sweat. And often when you wake up the next morning, you won't be sick. The only time I find that it really doesn't work if I haven't been sleeping really well or if I'm super stressed. But otherwise, sometimes, most of the time, it works very well. You wake up the next morning, you're feeling better. I enjoyed sharing some of my favorite herbal teas with you. Do you have any favorite herbal teas? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.